Welcome to the Global Reader. Today, we transport ourselves back to Thewtum of 1929, a time that began with the dazzling glow of the Roaring Twenties and ended with the chilling shadow of the Great Depression. This was not just a historical event. It was a devastating global economic catastrophe that reshaped the world, plunging millions into destitution and despair. It forced people from all walks of life to confront profound financial hardship. Our story will follow the arc of this economic crisis, exploring the causes, the suffering, and the eventual, painful path to recovery. Our English focus today is mastering the vocabulary for financial hardship. We will use precise words like bankrupt, foreclosure, poverty, unemployment, and deflation to clearly articulate the experiences of those who lived through this difficult time. By the end of this narrative, you will have a strong lexicon to discuss economic struggles and crisis with accuracy and empathy. Chapter 1. The Fissure in the Foundation. The 1920s were a decade of unprecedented prosperity in America. Mass production made consumer goods like cars and radios affordable, and the stock market seemed to offer a guaranteed path to wealth. This era was marked by speculation. Many people were buying stocks on margin, meaning they borrowed money to buy shares, betting that prices would only go up. However, beneath this veneer of wealth, deep fissures in the economic foundation were developing. One major problem was the unequal distribution of wealth. A small percentage of the population held the majority of the nation's assets. Another was the fragility of the banking system, which was poorly regulated and uninjured. Furthermore, many farmers were already struggling, plagued by debt and falling prices due to overproduction. The breaking point came in October 1929. On October 24th, known as Black Thursday, the stock market experienced a sudden, sharp decline. Panic set in. 4 days later, Black Tuesday saw investors engage in a frenzied selling of shares, causing the market to collapse completely. Billions of dollars in paper wealth were wiped out in merry hours. This was the start of the massive economic downturn that defined the decade. Chapter 2. Deflation, defaults, and the banking crisis. The stock market crash was not the cause of the depression, but it was the catalyst. What followed was a devastating chain reaction that spread financial ruin across all sectors of society. As the economic activity shrank, companies faced a severe drop in demand, leading to mass layoffs. The unemployment rate skyrocketed, reaching a peak of nearly 25%. With no income, families could not pay their mortgages or debts, resulting in widespread loan defaults. The most terrifying aspect of the crisis was the banking crisis. People fearing the worst rushed to banks to withdraw their savings, a phenomenon known as a bank run. Because banks only keep a fraction of deposits on hand, they quickly ran out of cash. Thousands of banks were forced to close their doors, and lifelong savings were lost overnight by hard-working citizens. Businesses could not get loans and were forced into bankruptcy. Compounding the problem was deflation, a period where prices for goods and services fall. While this sounds good at first, it makes debt more expensive and discourages spending, further stalling the economy. The vast majority of the population was plunged in poverty, struggling simply to survive. Chapter 3. The Human Cost, Destitution, and the Dust Bowl. The human cost of the Depression was immeasurable. The economic statistics translated into terrible personal distress. Millions of people who had once been secure homeowners and wage earners were now facing the humiliation of destitution. In the cities, evictions were commonplace. When a homeowner could not meet their mortgage payments, the bank would take possession of the property in a process called foreclosure. Families who lost their homes were forced to live in shantytowns built on the outskirts of cities, derisively named Hoovervilles, after the president in office at that time. Long lines of the impoverished would wait for hours at soup kitchens for a meager meal. The rural areas faced a double tragedy. The economic crisis was compounded by an ecological one, the Dust Bowl. Years of poor farming practices and a prolonged drought turned the Great Plains of America into a vast desert. Massive dust storms, known as black blizzards, swept across the region, destroying crops and making farming untenable. Thousands of displaced families, known as Okies or Arkies, were forced to migrate westward in search of work, often facing harsh discrimination and the brutal reality of wage cuts in already saturated labor markets. The country was engulfed in a profound malaise, a deep sense of unease and gloom. Chapter 4, the New Deal and the Path to Solvency. The shift in national mood and policy came with the election of Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1932. Roosevelt promised a New Deal for the American people, a series of ambitious government programs destined to provide relief, recovery, and reform. His approach was a radical departure from the laissez-faire policies that had previously dominated. One of the first and most critical steps was to restore solvency to the banking system. Roosevelt declared a 4-day bank holiday, during which emergency legislation was passed to inspect and reorganize banks. Crucially, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, was created to insure deposits, meaning that for the first time, people would not lose their money if a bank failed. Public trust was slowly restored. To address mass unemployment, massive public works programs were initiated. The Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, and the Works Progress Administration, WPA, employed millions to build roads, bridges, parks, and schools. These jobs provided vital income to struggling families and pumped money back into the stagnant economy. For long-term reform, the Social Security Act was passed, establishing a national system of old age insurance, and the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, was established to regulate the stock market and prevent the kind of reckless speculation that led to the crash. The New Deal did not end the Depression, but it stabilized the country and laid the foundation for modern economic stability. Conclusion: the legacy of hardship and the value of vocabulary. The Great Depression was a decade of unimaginable hardship and a stark reminder of the vulnerability of complex economic systems. It was a time when the vibrant spirit of the nation was tested by the brutal realities of scarcity. However, it also fostered an unshakable resilience among the American people and led to permanent change in the way governments managed their economies. The global economy was not fully revived until the massive spending and industrial production demanded by World War II. For English learners, you have now mastered a crucial vocabulary for financial hardship. You can articulate the causes and consequences of such a crisis with precision. You now understand the difference between foreclosure and bankruptcy, the devastation of deflation, and the meaning of solvency. This vocabulary is vital not just for history, but for discussing current events and personal finance in the English-speaking world. Continue at our Sethis words to solidify your understanding of the economic world around you.